Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are checking out the best premium cards in D Booster Set 1. Also note that 50 cards currently has a massive giveaway going on, so go to the site 50cards.shop. You can enter and maybe win something. Also, they have their pre-orders for D Booster Set 2 up, so if you want to pre-order that, do that with the code SOLEMN to get a discount. As you know, OVERDRESS brings support for every single nation and therefore support for every single clan. This means that every single set is basically supporting the entire premium format with every single release. Now obviously, sometimes these cards might be super great, other times they might not be. But the point is, we will be checking out which cards might stand a chance and actually have some impact in premium right now. Now these will be in kind of particular order, but not really. First we have our category of cards that might become interesting in the future, but aren't particularly amazing just yet. The first one we have for that is Lightning Barrier Emergency Deployment. This card says, play this with Counterblast 2, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets power 30,000. It is a Blitz order. Now, if you are playing something in Brand and the format gets extremely aggressive, it might actually become worth it to play a card like this. So is it useful right now? Absolutely not. 2 CB is just way too much, but maybe in the future it will be. I could even see some weird Chaos Geese deck that just needs to survive as long as possible using a card like this. And they have Zinc anyway, so Counterblast is free in that deck. Beyond that, one of the biggest weaknesses in Geese was actually always that once you're on Geese, you can't get around certain guard restricts because you can no longer G-guard. Now you've got a Blitz order that can get around guard restrict anyway. Again though, this is not for now yet, that's why this is in this category of maybe someday. Next up we have Shadow Leak Magician. This girl basically says this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. So it's kind of like a resist. Thing is, it's in that entire nation. Dark States will now forever always have some type of resist grade 2 in every single clan. Is that relevant right now? No, but maybe one day it will be. Maybe one day you get some crazy kind of loop in Pale Moon where you attack over and over with the exact same thing and you don't want that thing to get header around it. Then you're happy you have a Shadow Leak Magician. Maybe you get the same for Spikes, maybe you get the same for DI, maybe you get the same for Gears. We don't know, but the option now exists. Next up, Burn Bright Pure Prayers, an order for Dragon Empire. It says, if your damage zone has 3 or more cards, choose one of your units and it gets power plus 15k until end of that battle. Now you may think, okay, this is just a 15k shield. That's cute. However, once again, this gets around guard restrict because it's a Blitz order, so depending on how the meta shifts, if suddenly everyone is playing Luard and they are all Morphesaing your face, maybe even Chain Rankering your face, suddenly you'll be happy that you have orders that get around that guard restrict. And so once again, having that in the back of your mind is just a really cool thing to have in your toolbox. Is it relevant right now? No, but one day it could be. Next up, In the Darkness Nobody Knows. Play this with Soul Blast 1. When this unit is put into the order zone, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. All the rest, I don't even give a damn about. All this is telling me is, from now on, Brandgate, for the cost of 1 Soul Blast, can nuke anything. So now once again you can put that in the back of your mind. Maybe some clan becomes super strong but relies on a specific rearguard. Let's say Great Nature becomes tier 0 at one point but relies on Crayon Tiger. Now you know, oh, in my brand tech I can start teching this to start nuking those Crayon Tigers. And finally, for the category of not relevant yet but maybe one day, we have Tearing Malice for Stoichia. This is once again an order. It says play this with cost retire 2 rearguards, draw a card, put this card into your soul, and countercharge 1. Now the cost for retiring 2 rearguards is quite high, and currently not relevant. However, being able to draw and then basically fix all of your resources in one card may be useful in one of these clans someday. Is it right now? I don't think so, but one day it might be, so once again, put that in the back of your mind. Okay. Time for the cards that I can see becoming useful more quickly than these past few ones. We have Direful Dol Simone. Auto on R, when this unit boosts, if your soul has 5 or more cards, cost Counterblast 1, and until end of that battle when your opponent would call cards from their hand, they must call 2 or more at the same time. This is just adding a Morphesa skill to basically all of the Dark States clans that can actually use a lot of soul. So this would be Hellheart 8 in Spike Brothers, Pale Moon and Dark Irregulars. You now have a card that you can tech in and randomly add a Morphesa skill. The one clan that I can actually see teching this as a one-off very easily and having access to all the time would be Pale Moon. I can actually see these weird Pale Moon decks that are already running a bunch of one-offs, just stacking this in knowing, okay, I can call this out, maybe force one extra card this way. Once again, an extra option. Next up, we have two cards, both in the same class. We have Pentagleam Sorceress and her Divine Sister or whatever. Essentially, both of these cards can deck stack. Now, this is something that OTT has been able to do for a long ass time. However, Keter Sanctuary as a whole hasn't. So now you actually have two deck stackers that you can put in anything from Keter Sanctuary. And once again, go ahead and experiment. It's very possible that this is useful in a variety of decks. Do you want to stack your stance for Luard? Okay, take some of these. You want to stack some crits for your weird Angel Feather deck with rescue checks? Take some of these. You want to stack some crits for your Blaster Blade shenanigans? Take some of these. Will that work really well in every single deck that I just mentioned? No, but it might in some. And so now that's just extra tools for the Keter Sanctuary toolbox. Next up, we have Hollowing Moonlit Night. Once again, an order that you put into that weird order zone. Play this with Soul Blast 1. Auto, when this card is put into the order zone, draw a card. Once again, everything else I don't give a damn about. What this is telling me is pay a Soul Blast to draw a card. Now, this may not instantly seem like a big deal, but it really is. This is a upstart goblin. If we evolve towards a format that's increasingly fast, it is very possible that decks will gladly change any card in their hand into a new one for a Soul Blast. That is a huge skill. If you had this card in Fenrir right now, you would play it. The fact that you can cycle into useful pieces in a format that can get very fast is a huge deal. Ask yourself the question, if you could play a deck of 48 cards instead of 50 cards, would you? If you want your deck to be consistent, the answer is absolutely. You want to draw your better cards more easily. And so for that reason, again, depending on if your deck needs a Soul Blast, this is basically an upstart goblin. And you might want to consider it in basically any Brandgate deck. Once again, provided you don't need the soul. Next up, we have Causality Goes Crazy as I Will It. Once again, an order for Brandgate. Costs Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your Vanguards and it gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. I think it's quite obvious that the only thing I see this being played in is Dimension Police. They sometimes need specific amounts of power on their Vanguard in order to activate certain skills. I am pretty confident that some of these DP decks might want to run this to just start upping their Vanguard power and automatically reach those thresholds. Next up, Ghost Chase. This card is a Stoichia order. It says choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5k until end of that battle. Choose one of your rear guards that is not being attacked and return it to your hand. This card literally says reuse any on-place in the game. So if you have broken on-places in your deck, Ghost Chase. Oh, you play Zazan and Neo Nectar to abuse tokens? Ghost Chase. However, it gets better. Are you able to revive stuff? Maybe revive a perfect guard or a heal. Ghost Chase it back to hand. Do you play a Leopald in Great Nature and you randomly call stuff from the top of your deck? Maybe you found a healer RPG. You're like, well, I kind of want that to my hand. Ghost Chase. Now again, I'm not saying you should put this in every single deck that I just mentioned, but it might just work out in some of them. Next up, we have Selfish Engraver, this hottie with a basilisk. It says when this unit's attack hits, soul charge 1, and that's fine. However, its second skill says, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, if your soul has 10 or more cards, put this unit into your soul and counter charge 1. That is a big deal. I can see a deck like Pale Moon easily teching this as a one-off. Because, well, they might reach that amount of soul depending on the build, but more importantly, now they have counter charge after an attack, and they can make free fields anyway. So maybe this is part of some Alice, Loop, Magia, Harry kind of deck, where they were already running stands to put into soul to start counter charging. This could be part of that deck. Next up, we have Chain Rancor. Now, this boy in Stoichia is quite something. It says on V, Soul Blast 1, draw 2 cards, choose up to 1 order card from your hand, discard it, and if you did not discard, choose 2 cards from your hand and discard them. If you write this as your grade 1, you essentially have a far stronger mulligan, but if you have a quick shield, you actually have a very powerful +2 -1. And that -1 is something that you had for free anyway. So going second, this card as a ride is absolutely broken, and going first, it's just a better mulligan. Now, are you willing to play a card that is only good as a ride? Right now, no. And maybe in most decks, no. But once again, it's very possible that as formats speed up, maybe sometimes you have a fast format where that's actually worth it. Maybe you have a slower format where it isn't. Next up, we have just 5 cards that all kind of fit together. We have these new Sentinels, which are pretty interesting. The 6 case, where if your hand is running low, you essentially no longer have to pay the cost. I figured these were just a category of their own, because depending on which kind of deck you are running, which kind of build you are running, this might be interesting. However, you also have draw PGs, Sentinel crits, effect Sentinels, and a bunch of other things all fighting for that slot. So is this worth it to you? Maybe or maybe not. Once again, if a format is super fast, this might be worth running. If a format is super slow, maybe it isn't. Next up, we have Painkiller Angel. She says at the end of the battle that this unit boosted, Soul Blast 1, retire this unit and draw a card. This is a self-replacing card. If you are playing a grade 2 game, this is pretty good. You call it, you boost with it, you're basically putting pressure, and then it gives you that same card back. If you're in a very fast format, or if you're grade 2 gaming, or maybe you have a deck that really pops off on grade 3 but requires certain pieces, this is kind of once again like an Upstart Goblin, but this time with a body. I can see this being great in a very combo heavy deck. Next up, we have Spurring Maiden Elenia. When this unit is placed on R from hand, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose a grade 2 or less card from your drop, call it to R, and it gets power plus 5k. So now, every single clan in Stoichia has a revive card. Now CB1, SB1 for a +1 is basically a normal V cost. You know, Rectangle Magus had this kind of cost. The rival Hamhiko thing had this kind of cost. And so this is a very, you know, solid costed card that adds revival to anything in Stoichia. Once again, you play Neo Nectar with a Zazan, you want to use Zazan twice? Here you go. However, are you low on CB and you still want to revive some stuff in Stoichia? Well, do I have something for you. We have Spiritual Body Condensation. So it's a Soul Blast 1 to revive something with a grade lower than your Vanguard and it gets power plus 5k. This is basically Monster Reborn. Every single clan in Stoichia now has access to Monster Reborn. You play Great Nature and you popped all of your Crayon Tigers with Belarul and now you want them back? Here's a Monster Reborn. You want to revive Cezanne and Neo Nectar? Here's a Monster Reborn. You want to revive on a bad bounty turn? Here's a Monster Reborn. You want to revive your Tidal Assault or whatever Aquaforce is using right now? Here's a Monster Reborn. This is a type of staple that in my opinion will age beautifully, unless they power creep it. Next up we have Steam Battler Gun Ram. When this unit is placed on R, Soul Charge 1. Okay, cool. Auto on R, Soul Blast 3 and draw a card. You now have a card in Dark States that doesn't replace itself. It just allows you to actively convert soul into more hand. This is super amazing for Pale Moon and potentially decent in Dark Irregulars. Being a call into Soul Charge is already decent. If you're trying to build soul, Prisoner Beast does the same amount of soul. Just call, create 1 soul is a pretty decent thing. But just being able to turn soul into drawing, that is good. Now again, in DI, not as good, but in Pale Moon, I can see this being a great one-off. And finally, of course, we have the 5 over triggers. I can imagine that these are in almost every single premium deck from now on. These are just super powerful, can instantly swing the game. And also, don't forget about our little Cray Elemental guy. His effect might not be as shiny, but it's still a consideration. The reason it's still a consideration is if you are running a particular deck where you really want to hit over an over trigger, running an over trigger that can give you 200 million might be pretty good. Once again, though, super situational. Usually you'll just want to run one of these broken bad boys. So those were a bunch of cards from D Booster Set 1 that could be great in premium. Which one are you looking forward to the most? Have you found any spicy premium combos? Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, of course, don't forget 50cards.shop. Use the code Solemn to purchase anything Overdress. I will see you soon. Ciao.